To Marcus Sullivan, the only son who made something of himself. My uncle raised his champagne glass high, and 30 people in my parents' backyard echoed the toast. My brother stood by his brand new Tesla Model S, grinning like he'd just won the lottery, while I sat in the corner nursing a beer I didn't even want. How does it feel to be invisible at your own father's birthday party? Marcus launched into his rehearsed speech, the one I'd heard him practicing in the bathroom mirror last week when I stopped by his office. $5 million in annual revenue, folks. Sullivan Tech Solutions is officially on the map. He paused for applause, which came enthusiastically. Dad, this success is because you taught me to dream big, Mom. You always believed in me. His eyes deliberately skipped over me, sitting in my faded jeans and work boots. Some people are content with ordinary lives. I chose extraordinary. The dig was subtle enough that only I caught it. Or maybe everyone caught it and just didn't care. My mother dabbed her eyes with a napkin, mascara running slightly. I'm so proud of you, sweetheart. Marcus, you've exceeded every expectation. Then her gaze landed on me, and her expression shifted, not quite disappointment, but something close. Ethan, honey, don't you have anything to say? Aren't you proud of your brother? I took a long sip of my Coors Light. Watching condensation drip down the can, the September sun beat down on my father's perfectly manicured lawn in their Scottsdale, Arizona estate. Around me, relatives I saw once a year at best whispered behind hands about the two Sullivan boys, one who soared, one who stumbled. Yeah, Mom, real proud, my father, turning 70 today. Cleared his throat. He wore the expression I'd seen my entire life, the one that said he was measuring me against some invisible standard I'd never quite reach. Marcus worked hard for this, Ethan, built it from the ground up. Maybe you could learn something about ambition. That stung more than it should have. But I'd spent 32 years building up immunity to that particular poison. Marcus draped his arm around Dad's shoulders, a picture-perfect moment of generational success. Dad, it wasn't easy. Those first 2 years were brutal. I almost gave up a dozen times. But I kept pushing, kept believing, and look where we are now. More applause. My Aunt Linda actually wiped away a tear. The thing is, Marcus continued, warming to his audience, success requires sacrifice. I slept in my office for months. Lived on ramen and coffee. Some people aren't willing to pay that price. Another pointed look in my direction. They take the easy road, construction work, manual labor, punching a clock. Nothing wrong with that, I guess. Not everyone can be an entrepreneur. My cousin Jennifer leaned over and whispered loud enough for me to hear. At least you're consistent, Ethan, consistently disappointing. The group laughed, good-natured. They'd probably say, just family teasing. I could have left right then, should have, probably, but something kept me rooted to that cheap plastic chair. The kind my parents bought in bulk from Costco despite having a 6-bedroom house worth $1.20 million. My mother approached, her smile brittle, sweetheart. Why can't you be more like your brother? I don't understand, you're both intelligent. Both had the same opportunities, Mom. I'm not criticizing, she interrupted, which meant she absolutely was. I just worry about your future. You're 32, Ethan, still renting that apartment, still working construction, still alone. The last word hung in the air. Marcus had brought his fiancée, Amber, a stunning corporate lawyer who looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine. I'd come alone because the woman I was seeing, Maya, was working a double shift at the hospital. She was a pediatric nurse, saving lives while my family sipped champagne and judged me for not driving a luxury car. Your brother is settling down, building something, Mom continued. What are you building? Mom, I wanted to tell her. God, I wanted to tell her everything right then. But I'd made a promise, and I keep my promises even when they're eating me alive. Dad joined us, his retirement party tan making him look younger than 70. Son, I'm going to be direct. Your mother and I are concerned. We're not going to be around forever. What happens to you when we're gone? I'll be fine, Dad, will you? He glanced at Marcus, who was showing his Tesla's features to a cluster of impressed relatives. Your brother has security, a business, a future. You have what exactly? Before I could answer, Marcus called out, "Hey everyone, come check out the autopilot feature. This baby practically drives itself." The crowd migrated toward the Tesla like moths to a flame. I stayed seated, wondering how much longer I had to stay before I could politely escape. My Uncle Dad's younger brother, Tom, sat down beside me, unlike the others. Tom had always treated me with basic human decency. "You okay, kid, living the dream?" Uncle Tom, he chuckled, but it was sad. "They're hard on you. They don't mean to be." "Yes, they do." He sipped his scotch. "Your dad always compared me to him too. I get it." We sat in silence for a moment, watching Marcus demonstrate features on a car that cost more than most people's annual salary. "Can I ask you something?" Uncle Tom said. "And you can tell me to mind my own business, shoot." "What do you actually do?" "I know you work construction, but there's something else, isn't there? You've got that look." "What look?" "The look of someone holding cards nobody knows about." He studied me carefully. "I've been in business 40 years, Ethan. I recognize when someone's playing a longer game, smart man." My uncle, but I just shrugged. "I'm just a construction worker." Uncle Tom, nothing mysterious about it. He didn't believe me, but he let it drop. "Let me take you back for years to explain how we got here." Marcus had just quit his corporate job at a tech firm in Phoenix, convinced he could build a better IT solutions company. He had passion, vision, and absolutely no capital. Our parents offered to help, but Dad attached conditions that would have essentially given him control of the business. Marcus refused. I was working construction then, same as now, having dropped out of business school after 2 years to help support myself when our parents cut me off for lacking direction. I'd worked my way up to foreman, managing crews on commercial projects across Arizona. Marcus showed up at my job site one afternoon, looking desperate. "Ethan, I need to talk to you." We sat in my truck during lunch break, eating sandwiches while he pitched his business idea. Sullivan Tech Solutions would provide comprehensive IT support to small and medium businesses, everything from cybersecurity to cloud migration to help desk support. "The market's ripe," he insisted. "These companies are growing but can't afford full-time IT departments. I can fill that gap." "Sounds solid," I said, because it did. "I need $250,000 to start. Equipment, office space, initial hires, marketing. Dad will loan it to me, but he wants 40% equity and board control." "That's not happening." I understood. Our father had a way of turning every gift into a chain. "What about a bank loan?" Marcus laughed bitterly. "I've got student debt and no collateral. Every bank I've talked to said no." We finished our sandwiches in silence. Then Marcus looked at me with something I'd rarely seen from him: vulnerability. "I know we're not close," he said quietly. "I know I've been an ass to you over the years. But you're my brother, and I'm desperate. Do you know anyone who might invest?" I should have said no. I should have remembered every dismissive comment, every family gathering where he'd made me feel small, every time he'd sided with our parents against me. Instead, I heard myself say, "How much equity would you offer an investor for $250,000? I was thinking 30%, make it 60%, and I know someone who'll write the check. His eyes widened. 60%, that's a lot. Yeah, but it's fair for the risk. Your investor gets majority stake, but you retain operational control. All major decisions require mutual agreement. You get to build your company your way. But your investor has protection. Marcus considered this. Who is this person? Do I know them? Anonymous investor, very private, made money in real estate and looking to diversify. Are you interested or not? He was desperate enough to say yes. 1 week later, a lawyer delivered a check for $250,000 to Marcus from a LLC ID set up months earlier. The paperwork was airtight. I had 60% equity. He had 40%. He maintained operational control. And my identity remained confidential. The only person who knew the truth was my attorney, David Park, who'd helped me structure the whole thing. Where did I get $250,000? That's the part nobody in my family bothered to ask about. Remember how I mentioned dropping out of business school? What I didn't mention was that I'd spent those 2 years learning everything I could about real estate investment. While my classmates were partying, I was studying property markets, analyzing deals, and working construction jobs to build capital. At 22, I bought my first property, a condemned duplex in a sketchy part of Phoenix, for $45,000. I spent 6 months renovating it myself, working nights and weekends. Sold it for $130,000. I took that profit and bought more properties, then 4, then 8. By the time Marcus came asking for help, I owned 17 rental properties across Arizona, a small commercial building in Tempe, and had a net worth around $2.3 million. Not bad for a college dropout who lacked direction, but I never told my family. Why? Because I'd watched what wealth did to people. I'd seen how our parents used money as control. How Marcus had become obsessed with appearing successful rather than being successful. I didn't want that life. I wanted to build something real, something that mattered. Without the performance and pretension, so I lived in a modest apartment. Drove a 10-year-old Ford F-150. And let everyone assume I was just scraping by on construction wages. It gave me freedom they couldn't imagine, freedom from expectations, from judgment, from the constant need to prove myself. Funding Marcus's business was partially about helping family. But it was also a test. Would success change him? Would he become more arrogant, more dismissive? Or would humility from struggling make him a better person? For years later, I had my answer. Back at the birthday party, Marcus was still holding court by his Tesla. The afternoon sun was setting, casting long shadows across the yard. My father approached me again, this time alone. "Ethan, I want to talk to you about something serious, okay? Your mother and I have been discussing our estate. When we're gone, we want to make sure both you boys are taken care of. But we're concerned about your financial literacy." I beat back a laugh. "My financial literacy. We're thinking of setting up a trust for you, monthly disbursements, managed by Marcus. That way you'll have security without the risk of poor decisions you want Marcus to control. My inheritance. He's proven he can handle money responsibly. We think it's best." Something in me snapped. Not in anger, but in clarity. This was never going to change. I could have $100 million, and they'd still see me as the screw-up who needed supervision. "Dad, I appreciate the thought, but I'll be fine." "Ethan, be realistic." "I am being realistic. More realistic than you've ever been about me." He frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" Before I could answer, Marcus's voice rang out. "Everyone, I have an announcement." The crowd gathered around him. Amber stood at his side, beaming. "Oh no, I knew what was coming. Amber and I are getting married," he announced, pulling her close. "And that's not all. We're expecting our first child. Chaos, absolute chaos. Mom burst into tears. Dad embraced them. Both relatives rushed forward with congratulations. Someone popped another bottle of champagne. My mother found me in the crowd. "Ethan, isn't this wonderful? You're going to be an uncle. Congratulations," I said to Marcus, and I meant it. Despite everything, I didn't wish him unhappiness. But Marcus wasn't done. You know what makes this even sweeter? I can finally give my child everything I never had: security, opportunity. A father who's successful enough to provide for them. The implication was clear: our father hadn't been successful enough, and by extension, neither was I. Dad's face tightened, but he forced a smile. Marcus had crossed a line. But nobody was going to call him out, not on his big day. Actually, Marcus continued, riding high on attention. "I want to thank my anonymous investor. Whoever you are, wherever you are, you believed in me when my own father wouldn't. You gave me a chance." Dad's smile became strained. "This investor took a huge risk on me. 60% equity for $250,000. Everyone said I was crazy to give up that much control. But you know what? It was worth it. Because now Sullivan Tech Solutions is worth over $10 million. That investor's stake is worth $6 million. Best return on investment ever. Right, more applause, more champagne." "I've tried to find out who they are," Marcus admitted. "I want to thank them properly. But my lawyer won't say. All I know is the money came from something called Apex Holdings LLC. He laughed. "Probably some rich guy who makes investments like this all the time and doesn't even remember it." Uncle Tom glanced at me, then at Marcus, then back at me. I saw the exact moment he put it together. My mother, oblivious, turned to me again. "See, Ethan, that's what success looks like. That's what taking risks and working hard gets you. Mom, I just want you to understand that you have potential to. You just need to apply yourself like your brother." "Mom," I said more firmly, "I need to tell you something." "What?" "Sweetheart." The entire party was watching now. Marcus, still glowing from his announcements. Dad, looking impatient. Amber, politely interested. 30 relatives, all waiting for me to say something appropriately humble and congratulatory. Uncle Tom caught my eye and gave me the slightest nod. "Do it." Marcus asked who his anonymous investor is, I said. "Clearly, it's me." Silence. Complete, absolute silence. Marcus laughed. "What? Apex Holdings LLC. I set it up 4 years ago. I gave you $250,000 for 60% equity. I'm your majority shareholder. That's not funny, Ethan." I pulled out my phone and opened an email from David Park sent yesterday's quarterly report from Sullivan Tech Solutions showing revenue of $5.2 million and net profit of $1.8 million. My 60% stake is currently valued at $6.4 million based on your latest valuation. I turned the screen toward him. "Want to see the original investment documents with my signature?" My mother's face went pale. "This is a joke." "No." "Mom, it's not." I looked at my father. "You asked what I'm building. I've built a real estate portfolio worth over $4 million. I own 19 rental properties to commercial buildings and majority stake in Marcus's company. My net worth is approximately $8.7 million. Dad opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came out. "But you're a construction worker," my mother whispered. "I'm a construction foreman who invests in real estate. I work because I enjoy it, not because I need to. The job keeps me grounded, teaches me about property maintenance, and generates income I reinvest." Marcus was staring at his phone, frantically scrolling. Your Apex Holdings? "Have been for 6 years, but why didn't you tell me?" Why stay anonymous? Because I wanted to see who you'd become without knowing your big brother was backing you. I wanted to know if success would make you humble or arrogant. I paused. I got my answer today. Amber spoke up, her lawyer brain engaging. You own 60% of Sullivan Tech. I do. So every major decision requires your approval, according to our operating agreement. Yes, Marcus's face flushed red. You've been controlling my company this whole time. No, I've never exercised my approval rights, not once. Every decision you made was yours. I just wanted the option if you ever went off the rails. My father finally found his voice. This is absurd. How could you possibly have that kind of money? I explained it all. The real estate investments. The property flips. The rental income. The careful budgeting and reinvestment strategy. My modest lifestyle that let me accumulate wealth instead of spending it on appearances. I learned from watching you, Dad. You taught me that money is control. So I made sure to get money and keep it quiet. No strings attached. Uncle Tom started laughing. Actually laughing. I knew it. I knew you were playing a longer game. My mother looked like she might faint. But your apartment costs $950 a month and meets my needs. Why would I pay more? Your truck runs fine. Why buy something new when the old one works? But we thought. She trailed off, the implications sinking in. Marcus had recovered enough to get angry. You let me talk down to you. 4 years. You let me think I was better than you. I didn't let you do anything, Marcus. You chose to treat me that way. I just didn't correct your assumptions. That's manipulative. Is it, or did I just stop participating in a narrative you created? I stood up. I gave you $250,000 when you needed it most. I asked for nothing but equity. I never interfered with your business. I never demanded recognition. You built Sullivan Tech on your own merit. The only thing I did was believe in you when you needed it. But you lied. I never lied. I just didn't advertise my success. There's a difference. My father was still processing. $8 million, approximately, varies with the market, and you live like someone who values substance over appearance. Yeah, Dad, I do, Amber. Ever the lawyer was already thinking practically. Marcus, if Ethan owns 60%, he could force a sale of the company, or demand board seats, or I'm not going to do any of that, I interrupted. The operating agreement protects you. Marcus, I have approval rights. Not operational control. You'll continue running Sullivan Tech exactly as you have been. Nothing changes except now you know who your investor is. Everything changes. Marcus shouted. My success is still your success. You built the company. You landed the clients. You managed the growth. My money just gave you a runway. What you did with it was all you. Mom was crying now. Why didn't you tell us? Because of this, I said, gesturing at the party. Because you only value what you can see and measure. Because Marcus stands by a Tesla and gets applause, but I sit in the corner and get pity. Because Dad was about to put my inheritance in a trust managed by my younger brother, because you all assumed I was too incompetent to handle money. That hit hard. I could see it in their faces. You know what the saddest part is? I continued. I would have told you eventually. Maybe not today, but soon. But then Marcus had to give his speech about how some people are content with ordinary lives while he chose extraordinary, had to take shots at manual labor and punching a clock. Had to make sure everyone knew he was the successful one. Ethan, Marcus started. I'm not angry. I said, and I meant it. I'm just tired. Tired of being treated like a disappointment when I've been quietly building wealth and success for a decade. Tired of being compared to you when our definitions of success are completely different. You need recognition, validation, applause. I need purpose, sustainability. And freedom. Neither is wrong. They're just different. I grabbed my jacket from the back of the shed. Congratulations on the engagement and the baby, Marcus. I mean that. Sullivan Tech's quarterly reports show strong growth, and I'm proud to be an investor. Where are you going? Mom asked. Maya's shift ends at 8. I'm picking her up and we're getting late-night tacos, then probably watching a movie at my apartment that you all think is beneath me. Ethan, please, Dad started. Happy birthday, Dad. 70 is a big one. I kissed my mother's cheek. Love you, Mom. Uncle Tom walked me to my truck. That took guts, kid. Or stupidity. Hard to tell the difference sometimes. For what it's worth, I always knew you were going places. You've got something your brother doesn't. What's that? You know who you are without needing anyone else to validate it. I drove away from my parents' house with my phone already buzzing with calls and texts. I ignored them all. There would be time for conversations later. For processing and explaining and probably some family therapy. But right now, I had a beautiful nurse to pick up from a hospital shift, tacos to eat, and a perfectly ordinary life that made me extraordinarily happy. Marcus could keep the Tesla and the applause. I had something better, freedom from needing either one.